Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual conference. I would like to greet everyone. I see the speakers are already laughing because we had some great time in the backstage. So first, I would like to thank our sponsors for helping us create this great event, which are Tom Horn Gaming, SB Tech, Ansoft, Altenar, Singular, Plancerlaw, Golden Race, Talron, Law Firm, Nordic Gambling, ConnectPay, and Banquera. Thank you all for this. I was mentioning to Jaka that I hate this type of formats because we cannot go face-to-face or even hear the claps from the people that are cheering for us. So I will not take time from you. I will leave Jaka to start moderating the first panel, which is about how we should start sports betting industry, meaning the classic sports betting industry. So any questions you have, you can go on the chat and leave your questions over there. And I leave it to you, Jaka.
Thank you very much, Zoltan. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is also first time for me and for our panelists to be moderating and having a virtual panel. It's very interesting, and we're very honored to be kicking off this conference with the topic on restarting the sports betting industry. First of all, I really hoped we would be sitting in Tallinn right now and attending one of Zoltan's great conferences. For those of you who have attended them in the past, you know that they're one of the best in the industry. But times are tough, and we need to get tougher, I guess. Let me first thank Zoltan and his team for another great organization. It's amazing just how fast and professionally they have all adapted to the new circumstances. We have approximately 45 minutes and a very hot topic to discuss. So I will get down to the point immediately. Maybe just for those of you who don't know me, I'm a general member of International Masters of Gaming Law. I'm based in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and I've been active in the industry now for almost 15 years. It is my honor and absolutely pleasure to be hosting today's panel. So let me quickly introduce the topic of our panel. Worldwide disruption of the sports events due to COVID-19 is playing a major role in the halt of the sports betting industry. That's a fact. Everybody knows that. Restarting the industry will not be easy, and we certainly can't get back and see the same results as we did at the end of 2019. The coronavirus outbreak has swept almost every industry, from manufacturing, travel, hospitality, to airlines, transportation, and of course, sports. Due to this deadly disease, everything has been halted, whether it's traveling or sporting events or anything else. Major sporting events like NBA, NHL, MLB seasons are on hold. The coronavirus pandemic has also dealt a blow to the sports betting industry. Most sporting events are no longer taking place, so there is nothing for punters to bet on, causing a loss of business for bookmakers, both online and offline. Sports betting companies and the media businesses that had been rushing to take advantage of the industry are now cutting costs to keep their businesses afloat and exploring innovative ways to keep fans entertained, while much of the sports world has postponed to another date. Let me introduce our distinguished panelists, which you can see on the camera on the screen, which will kick off the conference and share with us some predictions. We will focus mostly on predictions about what is going to take to restart the sports betting industry. With me are Domenico Mazzola, Commercial Director at Altenar.
Jakub. Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Hi, Domenico. Thank you for being with us. Jakub, Myszkorowski, Chief Commercial Officer at STATSCORE.
Hi.
Hi, Jakub. You can hear us. Chris Nikolopoulos, CCO at BETBY.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you for being with us. And Sergey Portnov, CEO at Parimatch Holding.
Hi.
Hi. Guys, let me kick off with a question to everyone. I'll ask you for a brief comment on basically where we are right now. Some figures show that sports betting was down or is down over 60%. Some figures are showing we're down over 90% for some bookmakers. Where are we now in the industry? Let's start with you, Domenico.
Well, of course, as a sportsbook provider, we have been hit hard by this virus and this pandemic. and I cannot say exactly the numbers, but I can definitely say that yes, it is something between those two numbers that you have mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
What is true that it looks like we are seeing some new sporting events starting up again. And well, actually, the topic of this panel could, let's say, take us for weeks to discuss all the aspects. So in general, yes, I agree that the trend is the one that you confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have to wait for the sporting events to coming back to see slowly. We cannot expect, as you said correctly, the numbers of end of 2019, and most probably all the projections will have to be delayed for 1 year.
Okay.
Best case scenario, my opinion.
All right. Thank you so much. Jakub, what's your comment on that?
Well, basically, it much depends on how well you have prepared your business for this to happen. Basically, no one could prevent it from happening and even expect it to happen. But basically, the more the bookmakers have diversified their business, not only build it around the regular sports, the more you have been prepared for esports, virtual sports, the more you have been seeking for the different target groups, the better you can now digest this problem, because the size of the damage is various. So basically it starts from, as you said, even 20% going almost to 100%. For the last couple of weeks, I have been talking to lots of people involved in the business, and some of them were cutting the costs, some of them were closing the businesses, some of them were suspending the businesses. So really, what happened to them and how did they react mainly depended on what did they do before it happened. So basically, the more diversified were their businesses, the easier for them was it to cope with the problem. But definitely, it is not easy for anyone. And as Domenico said, we are now trying to get how long it will take to restore the, let's say, normal world. And definitely, we need to think about 2020 as a year that can go in a such way like now for longer.
All right. So let me write down first. One of our first points is that the more diversified operators and companies from before the crisis will definitely have a better chance of surviving this crisis. Jakub, that was your point.
Definitely,
right?
yeah. And only one comment on this. Still, if you have not been diversified before, you can do it now. But of course, it takes more time if you have not been prepared for this. So definitely, I think the ones that are now having a little bit advantage, these are the ones that already did it.
All right. Thank you so much, Jakub. Chris, what's your comment on that topic?
Yeah. First of all, I think we need to make a distinction if we are talking about online or offline. Yeah, because if we are talking about offline betting shops, even 100% drop is normal during the lockdown. Yeah. If we are talking about online, the numbers you guys mentioned are also what we more or less hear and see. I think 90% is really too much, but yeah, something between 30 to 60% would be more accurate, depending the market, depending the audience that each provider or operator has.
Right. Sergey, last but not least, what is your comment on the current status of the industry?
To understand the magnitude of this damage to the industry, I think the best way is to compare and contrast our industry with other industries. I wonder how this panel would look like if we were now in a room with Boeing, some hotels, companies who suffered like big time. Because to be honest, the damage of this online gambling business is definitely, I would say, there is an overreaction. Gambling industry has traditionally been enjoying abnormal profits. Okay, now you're hitting maybe break even or even some negative results. But to be honest, comparing to what happened to others, we are in a very good spot to take off really fast once sport resumes. I mean, not to mention casino business or poker. I mean, those guys are prospering, like hell. So, talking about sports, I think this Corona thing did something amazing for the companies to become diversified, to rebuild its culture, to become faster, more adaptive. So I think we're in a good spot as an industry to start innovating even more and moving faster than ever, because we were slowing down and we were focused too much on revenues. Everyone is just P&L, revenues, quarter to quarter predictions. That thing is now kind of on hold, and everyone is focusing on survival. And survival is where you innovate in a survival mode. So I think the industry is in a very good spot.
That is very good. That's actually kind of a link to my second point or second question. Survival, new business models, flexibility, like in anything, in any other industry or in any other crisis humanity has seen in the last decades or in the last centuries. I mean, this also brings opportunities. Like, in the past, we've been rushing to capitalizing the industry. Now we're cutting costs and we're remodeling and we're reshaping our business models. Let's talk about that. I mean, how are we finding, first of all, how are we finding creative ways to keep fans entertained while much of the sports world is in a limbo? This is the first question to everybody. What do we do now, and what are the operators doing to keep fans entertained while much of the sports world is in a limbo? And let's go back to you. Domenico, first.
Yes. Well, I think that nowadays the operators are more focusing on diversifying their portfolio of products if they did not did it before. Of course, they are thinking about promotions. They are thinking about what, let's say, is an old word, about gamification, about even trying to mix existing events together to try to combine some kind of fantasy matches, fantasy events to create a little bit more events. But I want to take one step back to say something about also related to the first question, because, and I agree with Sergey and with Chris, the main concept is about, okay, we are in a very lucky position here because we work in an industry that is true, that has been hit, but especially for sportsbook, you can evaluate, you can foresee that in a year you can have a couple of bad months. So this is let's say the size of the impact that has been for now. So it should be manageable. But for all the majority of the companies, even though this, we see already, even starting from the first week of the problem, companies cutting people, cutting salaries. So it's important because at the end of this thing, not all the companies will survive. Not all the companies will still alive. And I connect this with what Sergey said, that new opportunities will arise because the competition will be lower. The operators will be more, let's say, focused on getting quality suppliers. And this is one point. The second point is about markets, because the diversifying is very important, but you also you need to have the players and the attitude of the people to start betting on different things. Because if we think about the fact that in some countries they don't even know what a PlayStation or an Xbox is, because they would dream to have it, but they could not afford it, or they do not have even the chance to go to top up their accounts. It's not really important if they have thousands of slots, thousands of events, even if they are virtuals, if they are esports. I am a young person who likes to play football with friends. So I will bet. I'm in South America. The moment everything will start, I will start betting again on Real Madrid. I will not bet on Dota.
All right. Now, let me ask you one thing here. I mean, reshaping business models, restructuring, new betting opportunities. Does that require a change in the regulation, do you think, in regulated markets?
The question is to me?
Oh, to anybody.
To
you first, and anybody is welcome to comment on that.
I could say that it is something that apparently we are seeing going on the opposite way. We are seeing regulations and regulators imposing new limits because, of course, they want to protect their players. In my opinion, for example, in Italy, they are discussing now the opportunity, and of course, the operators are pushing on this side to lift the ban on the advertisement, to try to gain back some revenues. So discussions are ongoing. Let's see.
I can,
All right, guys.
I can add that
please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
that in a place where we operate, CIS, yeah. So Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all those countries. First, we act and innovate, and then we ask government if we can do it. Because when business in a survival mode, you have no time to go for compliance and checks. You just think, okay, how I survive today, and tomorrow I'll figure out the penalties I should carry, or some legislative, I would say, prohibitions.
That is a very good point. Now, for those of us who come from more of the legal part of our industry, before this crisis, we've been seeing a lot of pressure from many, especially EU-based regulators, on, I would say, quite preventive measures against sports betting across the borders of member states. I mean, those things now, with everything else going on, they, according to a lot of opinions, are easing up a little bit, loosening up, are going to change. Is there going to be some new, even maybe common court practice in this case? What do you think, Sergey?
Look, I saw that in Sweden, I think they already have all operators gathering and trying to appeal and ask government to alleviate the restrictions. So I would say corporations will win this battle, because after all, money and strong push is a very strong power. And if industry acts in one voice, it will be able to battle through all the limitations. If everyone acts on its own, unfortunately, you won't be heard. You will be just, on mute. Government won't listen. But you see, government in this coronavirus gets damaged as well, and they need to get political dividends from this corona. They need to bring their reputation up. That's why they're saying, look, we will restrict gambling because we know there are some vulnerable players. So they try to capitalize, their reputation on gambling. So it's tough. It's tough. Everyone has to make not only money, but everyone has to make something from it. Betting companies want to get their revenues back. Politicians want to get their trust back from their people, and of course those things don't combine well.
Sergey, Jakub, would you guys like to comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. I would start with the restriction topic. Definitely, what I would expect. What is my expectation? I don't know where it will go, but basically, each of the countries worldwide has been more or less affected. We see the numbers. This is like 887 countries of 195 worldwide affected with coronavirus, which means not only affected in a health-wise, but also in an economic-wise way. So basically, if all of the countries, if all the international bodies do not try to liberalize the laws, definitely will not see the damage being undone. So basically, I think it's also in the interest of each economist, local and international, to be more liberal right now. Because if we keep it like it was 2 months ago, definitely the way to rebuild the business, the way to rebuild the wealth of nations, it will take much more time. So definitely, I think this is the only way to get back to the success we used to have. This is one comment. The other comment would be about the reshaping. And I think, what we learned so far is that the betting business, sports betting business, does not have to be so dependent on sports. I know it sounds maybe ridiculously, but this is the way it is. We learned that we can focus much more on esports, we can focus much more on virtual sport, but it is true what both Domenico and Sergey said, you cannot expect that all of your audience will be transmitted automatically from regular sports to esports. Basically, you need to prepare that some part of them, maybe big part of them, will never agree to bet on FIFA games. We never agree to bet on LOL, because it is something they don't understand, they don't like, and they don't want to be forced. What does it mean? It means that as an industry, we need to be more open to new target groups, which we maybe not treated properly in the past. I mean mainly youth adults. This is the group which I see the biggest opportunity for our industry to focus on, because these are the only ones, or the main ones, we should focus with the new offer we have right now. Because even, let's say, the optimistic scenario, coronavirus controlled by the end of the year, and even if there are some new outbreaks, they are not so damaging in the future. Basically, we need to be prepared for the future cases, to be more connected with the virtual offer, not only to be so dependent on sports. So anyway, whatever happens, we need to be open for the new target groups for our industry.
Great. Jakub, Chris, I'm sorry. Chris, did you want to add something to that?
I agree with everything being said so far, but I would just like to elaborate on two more points. One is that, of course, if we want, regulation to help us during these strange times, if we want to have a chance to stand up, we need to be, united, depending the markets each one of us is targeting. And the second and most important point is that Sergey, I think, mentioned that already. If someone is going to win this battle, big corporations or even governments, and this is something that I think nobody really wants to happen. Nobody likes monopolies. Nobody likes when innovation is killed, and usually that's what happens when a monopoly comes into the game. With regard to just one more thing,
of course,
with regards to the how we can diversify our offering and all those different verticals that we are now offering, including virtuals, esports, and other things. I agree with Jakub. We have to look at those products not just as something that comes into the picture right now because we have nothing else, but this is a part of our offering anyway. Anyhow, we need anyway to look how we can improve those products, and even the hard way we learned that.
All right, I want to wrap up those points or those thoughts on regulation or on moving forward, also from a regulatory position or political position. Sometimes it seems like we're in a catch-22 book or a catch-22 movie. Without sports betting operators are down in revenues. Without sponsorships and financial contributions from sports betting, sports will have a much harder time to actually kick back and get the necessary money for sports. So basically, we are kind of running in a catch-22. And the sports industry, not the sports betting industry, the sports industry, of course, is very much interested that sports betting will be able to pump sponsorship money back into the sports. How do you comment on that, guys?
I can comment because we are now planning a restart, at least. Maybe plan is a strong word because plan is something very concrete. For now, I would say it looks obscure. It's more like a vision. But to be honest, we find it really challenging because we believe that the habit for casuals has diminished. It means you almost have to invest new CPA to gain your own players. The ones you already had, you have to regain them again and pay for them again. Because after 2 months, if you drink beer every day at 7 p.m., in front of your TV for 1 month, it's one thing. But then you don't have beer for two months, and if someone offers you beer, you're like, man, I'm fine drinking cola, I'm fine drinking water. So you kind of soften up, and I think it will be a big challenge to rebuild the habit. It will take a lot of marketing and a lot of spendings, and shareholders, I believe, they have to go deep into their pockets and put money aside for massive investments into marketing just to bring that habit back. That's one thing. And secondly, even though we have to pay for CPA, again, lifetime is now questionable. Do we get the same lifetime? Again, it comes back to weakened habit and lower purchasing power. I believe this thing also take place, and I don't think people will spend as much as they used to spend 3 months ago. So lifetime is now questionable. It means you have to invest into the fog. You literally don't know you have to experiment and you invest big, but there is no certainty. Before, it's all just model. You invest this, you gain that. It's all segmented. Every cent is measured. It just becomes a game of math. Now it's back to a game of entrepreneurship and risk. Like no one knows if you can get those money back. That's the question.
Thank you so much, Sergey. I would like you guys also to comment on Sergey's points.
If I may. And this is a very true point. And at the end of the day, I believe that everything should go to how much the players will be able then to spend again. Because if they lost their job, if they are struggling, if there is uncertainty about what is going to happen to their jobs, of course, some of them will still spend some money on our products, but some others will decide maybe to save that money for a worse period of times. So in general, even though and my opinion is, if the sports event will not start, we all have in general bigger problems. The sporting events are, my opinion, the key, not because of our industry, but because it means that all the other industries, because a football team needs to travel to go and play against another one. So it means that flights should be available. You move certain, let's say, side businesses connected to sports that they are key not only for our business, but for others. And this means that people will have jobs, they will still get some money, and they will start betting on what they were used to bet before. Of course, it's good if they find new products, new alternatives, but it will not be 100% sure that they will switch to new products, that they will easily change habits, because they also have other problems. They need to try to find a way to survive. So this is my opinion, the key. The people, is the players, and it's not so easy, and we cannot know now, as Sergey said, what is going to happen. So we have to stick together. We have to work internally, as in our companies, to, let's say, on that project that you never wanted to take care of because you had other priorities. Because the other priority was getting customer. Now it's not that time anymore. You need to build to, let's say, make your product stronger for when the new times will come, because they will come. Or if they will not come, it will not really matter.
All right, Domenico, thank you so much. Jakub, would you like to comment on that also?
Sure. Okay, first of all, if we are talking, about the economic impact of this crisis, this is hard to predict. Yeah, it's gonna take time. For sure, it's we cannot say right now. We cannot see the full picture even now about what's gonna happen. But it's a situation in general. We are talking about a global accident, and all this depression will last for months. And for this, we can be sure about. Now, this depression, if it's going to affect our industry, yes, it does. It will be harder, of course, for people to spend the same amount that they used to spend. And the question is, how do we get out of it? Yeah, what can we do from our side as industry professionals to continue, having some profit for our organizations? I think we need. It's a combination of different things. It's a combination of the right business attitude. It's a combination also with the right software tools. Yeah, we need to be clever. We need to be able to convert players from different verticals effectively, and that is a big discussion. It's not a very easy thing to do. Requires lots of things. For instance, just to mention. You need to know what your clients really like. We've seen 2 months now that people are betting on virtual sports. If I see somebody that is betting on virtual sports and he likes quick markets, for instance, or events that are settled quickly, I can try to target him later with some quick tennis markets or something like that. That would be a good example. Just to do the devil's advocate on what Sergey said, not that I don't agree, I agree. But just to do the devil's advocate about regaining this habit, I want to say that, like those last 2 months, what I see as the most successful sports, if we can call them sports, is the FIFA and NBA titles. Yeah, and why are those more successful compared to traditional virtuals or other verticals? Because they are more realistic. We follow real gameplay. They follow real teams, real stadiums, real jerseys, and everything. And I feel that the players and the audience is craving for real events to start. So I would like to look at it in a positive way as well.
I'm sure this is going to be a topic also of the esports panel. Very, very interesting, which will follow our panel also. Anybody else? Jakub, you wanted to add something to that?
Definitely. I would like to add to, especially what Chris said. It is very important to understand the factor that makes FIFA and NBA 2K so successful. Is, as Chris said, they are realistic. People are trying to get their life back, to make it the way it used to be 2 months ago. They are really waiting for this. And that's why they are trying to do something which is an equivalent to what they used to have. Basically, here in Warsaw, where I'm based, they opened big malls just this week. And what happened, there was like a lot of people in front of IKEA waiting to be open, to be allowed inside, because people are really willing to get their life back, to see that everything is normal. So I think we can also expect that once the sports betting for sports starts, like Bundesliga restarts, etc., we can expect some kind of compulsive betting at the beginning. But at this stage, it is something which we don't know. It never happened in the past in STATSCORE. So there were, of course, outbreaks, but never an outbreak that closed the whole world for such a long time. So basically, we can expect such high, I would say, high rise of interest at the beginning, but we don't know how long it will take to keep it up. This is one thing. The other thing is we don't know how much and how long people will be able to afford the life they used to have. So we don't know how many of them will drop, how many of them will try to, after some time, be more less flexible with their spendings and more protective. So definitely, at this stage, there's a very few things that we really know. There are a lot of things and a lot of questions which are opened, and I think we'll learn more. And hopefully, a good sign for the market, for everyone, for Domenico, for the side businesses, will be if really the competitions like Bundesliga restart, and if they are carried on until the end. Because my biggest fear is that they restart, and for some reason they are stopped because of let's say, another break, some problems. Because if they stop, I can see it as a big crisis and a big potential risk to every business connected. It's
going to be even worse.
I'm sorry, Domenico, you wanted to add something?
I just said that it's going to be even worse than if they did not start at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that a lot of people treat them as a kind of experiment. If they see that football in some way is playing again, their life can be normal again. If anything that happens, definitely it will affect all of the business, not only ours.
Yes.
All right, guys. Now let's go back to our maybe just the initial question or the initial title is restarting the sports betting industry. And let's talk about restarting now. So first of all, which sports are still running, which are basis for sports betting, and which sports are or which events are starting to open up again, and which ones, especially the big ones, we can maybe predict to be opening this year or maybe even only next year. What are your comments on that? I mean, I know it's a prediction, and nobody is an epidemiologist of us here now, but let's try to just put it in perspective of how the industry is looking at it. And let's start again with Domenico and go on with the rest of you guys.
Well, in general, we saw during these months still some football events going on some very far away countries like Nicaragua, Turkmenistan, I believe. Now we see what is going to happen again with Bundesliga, and we saw the rise of, let's say, table tennis. There was the championship in Russia, I remember. There are some sports. Now, if you ask me what could be the sports, of course, guys, football is the king of the majority of the country. So my opinion is that they will do, because also if we make some money betting on sports activities, they are making much more money doing them. So for them, they have much more motivation to resume than most probably we have. So probably if I have to say a sport, I would say that, they will try their best to complete the Champions League, because this is what they are pushing hard, even though, for example, the Ligue 1 in France stopped. The president of Paris Saint-Germain said that they will still participate into the Champions League. So football is going to be most probably the biggest experiment, as also Jakub said, about how could be our life in the next coming months and the beginning of 2021.
All right. Thank you so much, Sergey. Let's continue with you on this. Which sports are running, which are opening up shortly, which in a later period, according to your opinion? Just an opinion. It's a wild guess.
Look, in the past 40 days, the three pillars of our business have been table tennis, e-sport, and FIFA. Of course, Belarusian football helped, no doubt. I agree to what Domenico said. Return of big football is, I would say, it's fundamental to the health of the industry. If football does not return, nothing can replace it. I mean, industry will be cut in half, so you have to get it back. But even if it returns in full scale, with 70% of championships, being played, it doesn't make value of player complete still, because we know from our data that night game, I mean, night time, when you have American sports, NBA, NHL, MLB, all those sports, if you don't have those already 1/3 or maybe 25% of the value is gone, because nighttime is really important, and nighttime is predominantly driven by US. So US is really important. US sports, you can't ignore it, because if you ignore it, just make sure you adjust in your lifetime values of player. It will be much lower. I'll be honest, for live betting, basketball and tennis for us is bigger than football. I mean, football is fourth. Like, it's for Parimatch, okay, it's king of Parimatch, but our business is already 90% live. So for us, football is good to bring back the attention of betting business in general. It's good for a return of casual punters, but in terms of hardcore betting, it's not about football. It's about those live games, basketball, even volleyball, things like that. So we need more content, and we need big brands playing, because big brands return casual players. Today, what we see, only hardcore guys stayed. Casuals are gone.
All right, Sergey, thank you so much. Chris, before Chris, I'll let you answer the question. Everybody participating as an audience to our panel, you're welcome now. You could do it at any time, of course, to write maybe a question if you have for our panelists. It's going to show up in our chat, so everybody's going to see it. If there's a question, we got another 7 minutes to go with our panel. Then it will be automatically shut off after 45 minutes of the panel. So if you have any question, please write it down to the chat, and we will see it, and one of our panelists will be happy to answer the question if it will be part of our topic. Chris, let's go to you about the predictions of where we are, what's opening now, what's opening later, which sports are we going to depend on as sports betting industry in the next 12 months?
Yeah, obviously, as the guy said, football is no secret that is quite important. In a positive note, it's going to be the first summer that instead of betting on international friendly games, we're going to have some hopefully yes, some real events and real championships to bet on. One thing that is important is that this crisis started, let's say, more or less in Europe in March, which was towards the end of most of the European championships, where most of the important events take place. So we have events to expect that really matter, important events. In terms of what's coming up soon, we all know Bundesliga is coming up in 15th of May, next Sunday. Bundesliga is the first of the top 5 championships in football that is going to start, and I believe it's going to be important. What happens there is going to influence what happens in other championships like La Liga or Premier League and so on. We have to remember that Germany was not hit so hard from coronavirus. I know that there are other countries like Czech Republic, Denmark, Hungary, which are going to start also in the coming days. I mean, soccer. Sergey before mentioned about the UFC event, a super important event. Lots of people expecting it. I think it's on Saturday. As a general note, to finalize with this, I think indoor sports, it's normal to take a bit more time before they come up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. We have a question from Alex, and I'm going to read it out, and I'm going to ask Jakub, maybe you're going to answer it, or anybody else is welcome to do so. So Alex is asking, in your opinion, which sport do you think is going to have the biggest downfall because of the crisis, and which one do you think will be skyrocketing after the crisis passes? So which sport do you think is going to be going down much and going up the most? What do you think, Jakub, and maybe anybody else also wants to comment?
My opinion, it's very hard to say sports. Rather, you can say about competitions. And we need to think not about sports itself, but about particular competitions. Basically, what I think will happen is we shall not expect international competition this year. I think the local regulations, the local blockages will stop us from traveling, stop the teams from traveling, and I don't think that there will be like the final of UEFA Champions League, etc. It will not happen. Hopefully, yes, but I'm not so optimistic. So rather, there will be only domestic sport being played this year. So definitely the sports which will definitely be most affected, there will be the international competitions, not product competitions. And in particular domestic competitions, I think there will be the main competition, the Premier Leagues, which will stay because they are the wealthiest. They have the money to be spent on tests, the money to make sure that everyone is being protected. And at some stage, the amateur leagues, because then probably there will be some release from the very strict procedures. But everything between the top and the amateur is really in risk, and every domestic competition between the top and the amateur can be really swept away. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but I think this is the scenario we need to be prepared for.
Great. Chris, Domenico, and Sergey, please
I
comment
think
on
Formula
that also.
One.
Which sport's going down
Formula
the most?
One
Which
will
one
go
will be
down
up the
because
most?
luxury will not be in demand this year. Formula One always attracts rich people to one place and makes kind of this fake facade of luxury wealth. I don't think it's going to be a hot topic this year. And if you slow down, it means you slow down next year, because you have to always keep up the pace. And so Formula One, I can't say it's a big sport, but overall I think it will be damaged. It was already a niche, and now it becomes even more niche. In terms of which one who will skyrocket, obviously esport, because that thing just spreads like crazy, even more viewers, streamers. That thing will skyrocket.
All right, thank you so much, Chris.
I agree with about esports. They're going to skyrocket. Already we see great penetration of esports in the market. With regards to what's going to be the biggest downfall, we need to define if we are talking proportional or if we are talking in absolute figures. Because if we are talking in absolute figures, obviously sports with high turnover anyway are going to be the first that are going to be affected. I don't know what to bet. I would bet something between football and tennis, considering that those are the top sports and have been affected more than anything else at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much, Domenico. We'll wrap up this panel with your opinion on this topic, and then I will say stay safe and healthy to everyone. And
well, basically, to cut the long story short, I believe that Jakub has a point about football, because even in some leagues and some competitions, a lot of football clubs are really heavy depending on public, on the people going to the stadium and buying tickets and spending money in merchandise. So because this will not happen quite soon, not all the teams, especially the ones that are getting the majority of their revenues coming from this kind of items, will suffer a lot, and most probably we will see some clubs actually already happen that will have financial problems.
Thank you so much, guys. Now we're just about to run out of time, and we don't want to be automatically shut off. So I will say to everyone, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Let's give a virtual clap to our panel, to Domenico, Jakub, Chris, and Sergey. So I think there's a lot of people clapping around the world right now, guys. So thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you all in public, in live, as soon as possible after all this crisis is over. Let me finish with stay safe, stay healthy. Hope to see you soon. Have a great time, and
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.